Most men wake up already defeated, not because the world has struck them, but because their own thoughts have. Before the sun rises, the mind is already replaying insults, fearing outcomes, craving validation, resenting the past. And then we wonder why our days feel heavy. We carry invisible weights forged by our own interpretations. We say life is complicated. We say people are difficult. We say the world is unfair. Yet one of the greatest emperors in history, Marcus Aurelius, wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That sentence alone could reorder a man's entire existence. The truth is harsh. Most of our suffering is self-inflicted, not because pain isn't real, but because we multiply it with judgment, resistance, and ego. Seneca warned that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. If that is true, then mastering the imagination becomes the first battlefield. There are 5 laws that, if lived, not merely understood, erase nearly every unnecessary problem from a man's life. They are not soft, they are not convenient, but they are liberating, and most men ignore the third one. We walk through them together. Law 1. Master, what is yours to control? Every morning before speaking, before reacting, before checking a single notification, we must ask, what is truly mine here? Our opinions, our actions, our effort, our character, everything else, weather, traffic, rejection, praise, betrayal, outcomes, belongs to a realm outside our command. Epictetus made this distinction brutally clear. Some things are up to us and some things are not. The man who fails to divide these categories lives in perpetual frustration. When we argue with reality, reality does not bend. When we demand control over outcomes, we surrender control over ourselves. How much energy have we wasted trying to manage perceptions, trying to force respect, trying to guarantee results? The disciplined mind redirects that energy inward. We cannot control whether someone loves us. We can control whether we act with dignity. We cannot control whether we succeed. We can control whether we prepare relentlessly. Once we draw this boundary clearly, resentment begins to dissolve. Anxiety weakens. Anger softens. Because we are no longer fighting what never belonged to us in the first place. And when we stay inside our domain, our thoughts, our actions, our virtue, we become immovable. Law 2. Reframe every obstacle as training. The second law demands a shift in perception so radical that most men resist it. We must stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this training in me?" Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That is not poetic exaggeration. It is a psychological weapon. Every insult trains emotional restraint. Every delay trains patience. Every failure trains humility. Every rejection trains independence from external validation. If we interpret hardship as injustice, we weaken. If we interpret hardship as conditioning, we sharpen. This does not romanticize suffering, it repurposes it. The gym does not apologize for resistance. The forge does not apologize for heat. Why should life? When we adopt this lens, nothing is wasted. Even pain becomes useful. And a man who can extract growth from adversity becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Law 3. Kill the need for approval. This is the law most men ignore. We crave applause. We chase validation disguised as ambition. We adjust our tone, our opinions, even our values to avoid disapproval. And then we wonder why we feel fragmented. Seneca warned, "The man who depends on the opinion of others is never free." Yet how many of our decisions are quietly dictated by fear of judgment? When approval becomes a necessity, integrity becomes negotiable. We say we want respect, but we behave in ways designed to avoid discomfort. We silence truth to remain liked. We overextend to appear generous. We tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, but a man who cannot endure disapproval cannot act with courage. Epictetus asked, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That is not an invitation to arrogance. It is a call to independence. When we release the hunger for applause, clarity emerges. We act according to principle, not perception. And something paradoxical happens. We often gain the very respect we stopped chasing. Freedom begins where approval ends. Law 4. Discipline the inner dialogue. Most battles are not external. They are internal monologues left unchallenged. A single negative thought, repeated often enough, becomes identity. I'm behind. I'm not enough. They don't respect me. These phrases operate like silent tyrants. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If this is true, then every unexamined thought stains us. We must interrogate our own narratives. Is this belief factual or emotional? Is this fear rational or imagined? Is this interpretation helpful or destructive? The disciplined mind does not suppress emotion. It questions it. When anger arises, we pause. When jealousy flares, we examine. When anxiety whispers, we scrutinize. We become observers of our thoughts rather than servants of them. Gradually, emotional storms lose their authority, not because we are numb, but because we are sovereign, and sovereignty over the mind is the highest form of power. Law 5. Live as if character is the only currency strip. Everything away, money, praise, status, appearance. What remains? Character. Everything external can vanish. Health can decline. Wealth can evaporate. Reputation can shift overnight. But the integrity of our choices remains ours until death. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "See to waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That is the entire philosophy distilled into action. If character becomes our primary currency, decisions simplify. We ask, is this honorable? Is this disciplined? Is this aligned with who we claim to be? When we prioritize virtue over comfort, life becomes coherent. We stop chasing shortcuts. We stop compromising principles for convenience. We stop negotiating with weakness. And here is the quiet revelation. When character becomes the aim, most problems dissolve. Not because circumstances change, but because we change. We become less reactive, less desperate, less fragile. We become steady. These 5 laws are not techniques. They are daily commitments. Each morning we choose to govern what is ours, reinterpret adversity, reject approval addiction, discipline the mind, and anchor ourselves in character. Problems shrink in proportion to our inner order. We do not control the storm, but we can become the kind of men who walk through it without collapsing. And when we do, the world may remain chaotic, but we no longer are.